Okay, so I'm just going to delete these ones I added. And I'm going to right click on the output of this, and let's select a transform top, which is in the last column about halfway down. Now another way is if you can't find it quickly here, because there's a lot to look at. When you first open the upgrade dialog, you can type in the search bar here, and I know I'm looking for transform, so I can type in trans, and it'll just match the only one that matches transform. So there it is there. And here I want to show you just the parameter box. So if you don't see this up here in the right corner, P is the shortcut for that. And you can also right-click on any operator and select parameters if you want a floating window of that. Like let's say you have a second monitor and you put it over on the second monitor. You could do that as well. Now this parameter dialog will follow whichever operator you have selected. So as I'm going through the operators, it's showing me the parameters for that operator. And basically, you can control any of these parameters to adjust your. If I zoom in a little bit, let's just look at this more closely. Okay, so that's a rotate parameter. This is a scale parameter. So this is in scale X and scale Y. So X is across, Y is up and down. So I can put in 0.5, and it's half as small. 0.5. There's a background color here. So there's if I put in these, this will be red, green, and blue. Or I could just click on the color swatch here and select a color. And I have to put in an alpha. Oops. That's interesting. There we go. Comp over background. So composite sit over the background. I don't really like that color, so I'm going to take that off. Another thing with working with parameters, you have multiple parameter pages here. So that's just something to be aware of. Some of them have many pages of parameters, some only have one. And another thing you can do with these numbers is some of them have sliders like this, where it makes sense to have a slider here, but these numbers don't. But we have something called the value ladder, which allows you to interactively slide them up and down. So if you hold down the left mouse button over it, after about half a second, this little value ladder will open. It shows you a few different numbers. I'm still holding down the mouse just to keep it up. If I go up to 1 and then go left and right, it will increment the number by ones, by integers. If I hold down here and go by 0.1s, you can see it's only moving it by 0.1 values. So basically, this little value ladder allows you to adjust your parameters at different increments of 10. And that's pretty helpful because for translate, 0.1 makes sense where I'm moving here. But if I try to do that with rotate, 0.1 doesn't rotate it hardly at all. So, I might want to go by 10s to rotate it more quickly. The rotation parameter is 0 to 360 because angles go 0 to 360 in a circle. Another thing you can do is you can also right-click on these parameters, and there's a few options here, such as there's a few different copy parameter to paste it somewhere else, but also reset parameter is very very useful. So I want to reset the rotate back to 0. Another thing that is helpful when looking at someone else's file or trying to find out what's going on in an operator is this little bullseye over here on the right-hand side is called non-default parameters only. So if I click on that, this it looks like a bullseye. If I click on that, it's going to show me just the parameters that have changed on this operator. So it shows me that I've changed translate and scale, and I've also turned on this comp over background. So if you're going through someone's network and you're not sure what they're doing with that one operator, you can click that button, and it'll give you a view of everything that's different from the default setting. When you're done with that, turn it off right away so you can start seeing all your parameters again. That's one thing to remember about all these parameters. All these parameters are animatable, scriptable. You can basically control them from anything from a device to math expressions to Python, anything you want. So when you envision it, or you're looking at any of these, you can think of how you want to animate it, what you want to drive it. Maybe you have a sensor or camera that is driving any of these things. And we'll get into all the different ways of connecting these parameters together. Okay, so this chop is basically holding animation data. And as I showed you earlier, I can't connect this to any tops directly. But there is, you do notice that there's a connection here going from this chop into this, this top. So if I look at this top, that's because this top here has a parameter that is looking for a chop, so it's actually referencing it. So when you see these dotted lines, it's different than a wire because it's not actually filtering image data, but it's sending its animation data over to this. Now, I can show you what's going on here by, I'm going to put a resolution top in here and just change this a little bit so you can see what's going on. Custom.
Is that okay?
So all I've done here is this little line here is a little bit hard to see. So I've added a resolution top here to make it taller. But what's happening here is this animation data is being used by this image operator to make an image out of this animation data. When it goes down close to 0, you'll see it's black. And if I go to this noise, and I'm going to turn up the amplitude a little so it's a little easier to see. There we go. In the resolution top, I went to the common parameters, and under the output resolution, I selected custom resolution, and in the output aspect, you can use resolution. So if I press spacebar to pause it, this is just a visualization of using animation data in an image. So up here where you have high values, you're getting a 1, which is bright, and 0 is down low, which is black. So we're converting animation data into image data now. Well, this operator here is, its function actually is taking, is to take a chop, taking our animation data, and turn it to a top. So this operator's function is to convert data like that. And we have these operators for every single family. So this is one of the most powerful parts of TouchDesigner, is being able to look at one type of data in all these different formats. Another way we might want to look at this data is, this is animation data, but let's look at it in a spreadsheet format or in a whole bunch of numbers. So for that we have something called DATs. And I'm going to select a chop to DAT. I want to go from this chop into a DAT. So it's the purple guys at the very end here, and it's the third one down. I'm going to place it beside here.
Sorry.
There's two things you need to change here, and it's the output resolution and the output aspect. So basically I'm taking a 1 pixel long line and I'm changing it to an image that is 256 pixels by 256 pixels. And I only did the resolution top just because it's a little easier to see than this single pixel line. But like this chop to top, using the noise 1 here to get that image, we can do that over in this data operator. See, it's asking for a chop here. So this one,
Yeah.
It's I opened up the operate dialog and I selected chop to. And now with the chop to selected, so I can see the parameters, it's looking for a chop. So I'm going to drag this operator, this green one, the one with my animation channel, the chop, into that field and drop it. And you'll see now we're looking at the same data in a different format. Now if I pause this, zoom in a little bit, I have basically one entry for every single piece of information in this animation. So you can start imagining how you might get data and what you can do with it. For example, you might have a spreadsheet of information from some sensor array, or somebody in business sends you an Excel spreadsheet or something. You can now bring that into Touch and turn it into animation data, or you can turn it into an image. You can work with any type of data in different formats. I'll do another very quick example of another family with using the same animation data. You don't have to follow me here because I'm going to do this rather quickly, because I just want to show you how we can now use this animation data to make a 3D line or a 3D surface. So I'll do this quickly, but SOPs are our surface operators for 3D objects. So I will create a line quickly. And then I will create a chop to SOP, because I want to go from this chop animation to there. Okay. And then I will, with the chop selected, I will take my chop over to the chop parameter. I will delete all these channels. Like, again, you don't have to follow this, but I'm trying to explain it as I go. And I will delete all these attributes. Select Y. And I will now you can see that I now have a 3D line in 3D space that is using that same animation data. So this is one of the wonderful things of TouchDesigner, is being able to take one form of data and use it in all these different contexts, and being able to convert this in real time is very powerful. It allows you to actually think in different ways. Sometimes you have a spreadsheet and it's hard to deal with all these numbers, but it's very easy to deal with as an image, for example. It allows you to be creative, and also it allows you to sometimes do some tricks with hardware where one way might be faster than another way, and that'll come with experience. And we're going to show you some of those techniques over the next couple days. How to use the GPU in the best way possible, how to use the CPU, and when not to. With real time, to get good performance, these are all things you have to think about as you're designing your projects. So if you right click on just the parameter itself, like this one here, I can reset the parameter. You can also do Control Z, just goes back to if the last thing you did. Yeah. Also, you can go to a node itself, like let's say this one here, and I can say reset all parameters if you want to get it right back to. Again, sometimes if I was looking at this and I didn't know what this guy was doing, I would always go up to this bullseye and click on it. It's like, oh, these are the 3 parameters that are non-default. So I kind of will look at those and try to understand them. And this is great when you're looking at other people's work, which people are very sharing on our forum. You'll find a lot of examples. And you can also put up a problem you have, and people will often just throw up a solution for you. So, and then you can use this button to step through what they did and figure out what's going on.